Hi everybody, welcome back to my YouTube channel. So this is Aditi Ranjan. And before we start, how are you guys all doing? And this has been finally the 3 week of posting on YouTube. And today we are going to discuss something very incredible and important in a BP debate, that is how to make rebuttals. Now this is something very important to discuss because you can make stronger arguments, but what if your opponent counter that? So how will you reply to them, or how will you counter the arguments that are made by your opponent or your team? The rebuttals plays a very important role in a BP debate because these are the bombs that you can drop on your opponent and still win. So moving ahead, and let's get into the knowledge. Now let us understand and master rebuttal categories in a BP debate or the British Parliamentary debate. Now, in this video, we will cover 5 types of rebuttal that you can use in any debate format, that is logical, factual, principle, comparatives, and impact-based rebuttals. Now, let us understand each one by one and efficiently. Now, logical rebuttal. Logical rebuttal is a very simple yet very powerful type of rebuttal that you can use in any of the debate format. Now, what it actually looks like and how will you identify the flaws in the opponent team? So logical rebuttal is basically when you make a rebuttal or counter the arguments of your opposition using logic. Logic behind the arguments of yours or logic behind the arguments of your opponent. Now, how will you identify the logic? Logic is identified when you focus on the impacts. So in the last video, I told you how to frame arguments. Then I told you to add impacts, 3 impacts in each argument. That is where the logics come into the magic. Where logic will give you in these impacts, you just have to find the logic. For example, so even if your opposition is going to say a speech or present their cases, you just have to listen it very carefully and point out the impacts or point out these 3 factors or impact. And then you can explain it with your own logic and why your logic is much better and have a stronger impact and probability in itself. Now let us understand this with a very simple example. So if our opposition says that banning private schools bring economical equality to the country, so you can say, of course, it brings economical equality just on the surface, but it's all fake because the rich is anyway gonna fly their kids to some other countries and hire private educators or something like that. So because of which there is no economical inequality in reality. It's just on the surface, and that is fake. So that's how logic come into entry or in arguments. That's how you make logical rebuttal. Logical rebuttal is very simple and very powerful, as I told you. So do make sure to give a shot on reading whatever is on the slide. I think it will definitely help you out. Now, factual rebuttal. Factual rebuttal is, I think, one of the strongest rebuttal that you can make in a BP debate. Here, what we do is we just correct the inaccurate presented data or status or stat by the opposition. And this actually enforces the judge or the judicator to think that, okay, this participant has a great depth or has great depth in the knowledge of the given motion. So now let us take an example, and you will understand that it better. Now, capital punishment, let's say opposition says that capital punishments in Singapore has led to low crime cases. So you can go and rebut it as factual that no, the crime cases just not just influences by capital punishments, because the similar capital punishment can be also observed in USA or UK, but yet the crime rates are high. So because of not just punishments, but because of high security, surveillance, and public awareness, these all result in lowering the crime rates. So that is something that you can implement, and that is something that gives a judge a push that okay, this person has a great depth. So that will just not impact you, but boost your arguments while actually bombing or knifing the opposition or the opposition arguments. This is one of the basic and very smart rebuttal that you can make. And why is it most preferable? Because when because for this you just have to use a lot of data, you just have to study a lot, and that gives you a very insight and outside of the same topic. Now, in this type of data, don't ever rebuttal on the basis of outdated data that you have. So even if I'm debating in 2025, don't expect a data that comes from 2019, 2018, 2017. No, the max that you can use is 2023, 24. That's something that we debate on, because debate go on present, debate don't go on past. So we just have to mind that in a BP debate or in any debate, use the most recent data. And because of you are using a most recent data, like most recent data, the fact countering your argument as factual is a very hard, and that is something a bonus point to you. Now let's move to the second or like third rebuttal, that is principled rebuttal. Principled rebuttal is something that is very simple again, but yet it's nice, and I hope you got it nice. Now, what does principled rebuttal mix? So principled rebuttals basically focus on principles and ethics of any country, of any religion, a particular continent, because humanity has a lot of principles and are like ethics. So we just have to focus on ethics and challenge the moral or the ethical foundation of an argument. So we don't have to focus on the stats. We don't have to focus on the logic. What we have to focus right here is the ethical foundation or the ethical argument or the moral of the argument that we are making. Now, let me give you a best example for this. So let's take an example where opposition say the government should not gatekeep anything and say everything to its public. So you can go and speak like, okay, the government should keep like, but a government cannot present like a military plan for a student to group study. That is something very wrong, and because of which the country's peace and sovereignty comes in a position of danger. So saying lie is not bad, it's just how strategic you are about that. So that works on the principles, that works that we just have to challenge the basic norms or the pre-made, you know the pre-made mindset of the people around the world. So most of us most of us are taught that saying lie is bad, but not every time. Sometimes it's good for us. So that is what principal rebuttal make, and principal rebuttal actually challenges these norms and always look for that. Now, comparative rebuttal, and one of personally my favorite. Comparative rebuttal is something that is very easy to understand. And this is like, we don't have to actually counter our opposition argument. What we generally have to do is you say, okay, the points that my opposition is saying is truly right. But the thing is that my world is still better and my case is also much better. So that I told you, like in the motion video also, that we just have to compare worlds. So that is something exactly what we have to do same right here. We have to consider a world as an argument and then compare it, and tell the judge that why still our arguments or our world has a much positive impact on the society and most of the stakeholders. So now let me give you a best example, and I hope you will understand that. It's like legalizing drug will like ban or still like black market. So if I legalize drug, the amount of black markets that runs will be lowered or will be less. So that is a true factor and you cannot deny that. But as a comparative rebuttal, what you can make is, okay, and that's truly true that if I legalize drug today, or if the government of my country rebuts like opens drugs and legalize drug, the black market is gonna shut. Because now, why my case is still better that we should not legalize drug is because people are going to overdose and there will be more number of accidents on the road and more number of people will be killed. There will be so many people already in the hospitals that are overdosed, because now drugs are not like illegal, drugs are legal, and that is why everybody can consume. So everybody will be overdosed, the hospitals will be filled with patient, and still we have more number of death counts, and because of which the human population will be at risk. So that is something we compare worlds, that yeah. Legalizing drug has some benefit, and like unlegalizing drug or is also a good thing. But why still my case is better? Because we protect the life of people. We don't just focus on economy, we focus a long-term economy, we focus long-term human life, and we focus on safety of people's life and ethics. That is something that we do in comparative rebuttal. And what just simply that you have to do is you just have to find the flaws of the like opponent's arguments, and you just have to, this part is wrong, this part is wrong, this part is wrong. So that is what you do in comparative rebuttal. And that is impact based rebuttal. Impact based rebuttal is very simple to logic based rebuttal. Difference that you only find is logic out there. So you just have to put your mind in logic rebuttal and put like, okay, if this happened, what is the most likely thing to be happening in our society or in the status quo? So that is what you do in logic based rebuttal. What is in impact based rebuttal? So we just prove the judge that, okay, the arguments that my opposition has made is fine, but yet that does not have any impact on anybody. No stakeholder is impacted, whatever the arguments that they are making. And basically, they're over exaggerating their impact when they don't have even one. And I will explain that with a best and very good example. So if my opposition say that we should not ban like women pageants because many people will lose their visibility and jobs. So we can say that, okay, for a short term, losing visibility and jobs is much better than objectifying women and talking about them, and putting a harsh system of beauty standards all around the world. So this shows that our impact is much valuable in a very long form and will sustain not just today, but even after 50 years or after 100 years. So that makes our case heavy, that make our case stands and our argument or the opposition arguments fall. Now, what I mean by impact. So if you have watched my argument video, and if you have not, I will put it in the eye. Do make sure to watch that. In that, I've explained you well what are the impacts and how to deal with that. Same thing that you have to do in impacts. So if an argument your opposition make and they tackle probability, so you have to tell me, no, the probability of that happening is in short term, and that what I am saying, so you just have to prove the judicator that what I am saying has a more probability to happen. Now if they take magnitude, you just have to prove their magnitude or their arguments have no magnitude where I have the magnitude. So, you just have to question significance, you have to minimize your harm and argue against the magnitude. Magnitude is a key point here. When you talk about impact, your magnitude should be always higher. That same thing that I told you in arguments. Arguments and rebuttals go hand in hand, but we just know how to manage them efficiently. Now, crafting efficient rebuttals. So I have completed all the arguments, or sorry, all the rebuttals that we can make, and now we are focusing on crafting effective rebuttals. So prioritize, integrate, and frame. So what I mean by prioritize. So prioritize your arguments or prioritize your rebuttals first. So what rebuttals I'm going to make? You just have to, because in a speech you can make thousands of rebuttal, but you don't have that much time. So prioritize your rebuttal. Okay, I want to say this A point first, and then C point, and then B point. So this is something that you prioritize because A has a huge impact and C has a more impact than B. So that is how you place and prioritize arguments or rebuttals. Now integrate. So even if your arguments or rebuttals are different, try to integrate them in one. What I mean by integrate is there should be a connectivity one and two. So it's not should be like if the two arguments or the two rebuttals that you make are poles apart. They should have some connectivity in them, or like some connection in them, because that make a judge feel that from single go everything that you said is true and your case is much heavier. Now frame we will talk about it in a detail someday else, but let's give you a short information on that. What does I mean by frame? So you have to frame, when are you going to speak an argument, when are you going to rebut. So first, are you going to rebut and then you are going to say all the arguments, or you are going to say first all the arguments and then are you going to rebut. So that also depend on various strategy and the position or how you debate on a speaker role. So either you're a PM or DPM or LO or DPLO, so everything has a different mode and everyone can speak it differently, and it's just almost on a personal choice. But then also there are more strategies about that. Oh, sorry for the next slide. Yeah. Responding to rebuttal. So first, when a opponent gives you a rebuttal, how to accept that and how to respond to that. Because that is something that you must have to do, because if you leave your rebuttals unanswered, it will give a judicator a clear answer that you don't have an answer for that rebuttal. So first, identify what is the flaws that they have taken. So if I say logic rebuttal, if an opposition made a logic rebuttal to you, so frame that, okay, they made a logic rebuttal. So I just have to counter my logic. I just have to prove my logic is still better, or at least prove the judge whatever they are saying it's not true, but something is still on our case. Now clarify. Be specific on what you are speaking. If you want to frame logic, then be specific and say logic. Don't go for comparing, don't go for anything else, because you don't have time in a BP debate. You don't have time in a BP debate to actually integrate everything in one. So be clear on what point are you going to compare it? Are you going to like logic knife it, or whatever you're going to do that? And strengthen your case with examples. Even if your rebut, give more examples to it to prove your point, because examples play a very important role in a BP debate or in any debate or public speaking you go. Because example explain the judges to believe on you. They give them a trust to believe in you. And that is something that you have to do or have to earn in a BP debate. Now, practical rebuttal drills. So, mock debates, rapid fires, and partner debate, that's all that you can do, because there is no magic pill that will make you great in any format or anything in the world. So, you just have to practice mock debates. And if you have practiced all the mocking debates that I've given you since episode 1, you know what all I'm talking about. And I'm still repeating it. In a mock debate, if you feel that in a motion X, I will do better in an opposition side, then go for preposition. And if in the motion X, I will do good in the like preposition side, go for an opposition side. That will give you an insight of like how to actually think. Rapid fire, if you have a friend, and even nowadays AI can help you. And even if you want, I can also put you a help if you tag me on Instagram. And partner debate. Partner debate is basically how you practice debates normally. So find a friend, do a Zoom call, and practice debates with them. That will actually give you an insight how to speak. And even if you make a rebut, what response do you get and how do you respond to that? So there are so many things happening in a debate, and don't take it lightly. And that was all for today, guys. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope you love it and you got some or the other information from this. So keep watching, hit the like, subscribe, and comment. And please tag me on Instagram if you need any help of mine. So thank you so much.